Tuesday morning
Yes.
and happy day. Boy, I'll tell you, are we excited to be here today?
Oh, we are.
What?
Happy September.
Yes, happy September.
Yeah,
Today's
yeah.
September 1st. Unbelievable.
Can you
See,
believe it?
we're going to get through this year by hook or by crook, some way, somehow. We're going to all make it together. So
We
we're
are,
already
we
in
are.
September. We're already thinking about the leaves changing and
Yeah.
pumpkin spice
I
and all these
know.
wonderful things. But I'll tell you what, you're going to love our show today.
Oh, yes.
We have
Very
an
special
icon
guest.
with us. I mean,
Yep.
the man is the historian supreme of East Tennessee. He's an award-winning TV host. He's a producer. He's an author. He's a playwright. He's a storyteller.
Oh, yeah,
like
absolutely
you cannot
a storyteller.
believe. Absolutely. You're going to hear some great stories to tell. And, of course, he's an actor spending nearly 30 years doing the Heartland series on WBIR. Please welcome our guest, Mr. Bill Landry. Say good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
We are great. Now, Bill is actually remote. He's a little ways from East Tennessee right now,
Yeah.
but you know, we thought it was too far to catch him from the North Pole, so we came down to this area, to Pigeon Forge.
Yes.
But he's actually in Myrtle Beach. Are you in
North Myrtle.
North
Myrtle. North Myrtle
Myrtle Beach.
Yes. So, but anyway, Bill, it is a delight to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. I'll tell you, you know, you really are. You're a part of the East Tennessee history, just as you've written about the East Tennessee history so much. But tell us, how are you keeping your days busy right now? What you doing down there?
I'm having cataract surgery.
Oh, no. You know, this is a problem when you get old. Yeah, that's what everybody wanted to know.
That's why I wanted to talk to you, Sam. I wanted people to know that, yes, I'm still alive.
Well, that's good.
And still around and still telling stories.
I heard a guy talking today on the radio who said, yeah, this is the first day of September. That's after 72 days of March.
Boy, and
Isn't
it
that the
feels
truth?
that way, doesn't
Yeah,
it? Boy,
yeah,
this has been a
yeah.
tough year for everybody involved. Yeah, I mean, Bill, I got to share a little personal story here. Mrs. Claus and I knew Bill from all the different author shows that we've
Yes.
done together because he is an author and he's got several books out there. We're going to show you a few of them today. But anyway, that's how we met, and we became friends over these shows.
We did.
And now we're sitting there doing everything long distance because we have no shows to go to. So
That's weird,
you know,
isn't it?
It is, but
It's very strange.
it's certainly
Very
nice
strange,
to catch
yeah.
up with you. So you know,
It's great to see you.
Oh.
Well, it's teaching us all how to reconnect, and during the pandemic, I've reconnected with old ball players that I played ball with years ago, and grew up with, and people that you've got a little time. It used to be a few months ago we had nothing but time. And, the world's picking up again now, and we're getting close to the election, so everything's kind of running on a high temperature and everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
what do you see for the rest of the year? Do you think after the election things are going to start calming down a little bit? And what's your prognosis on it?
My wife and I are going to either celebrate or move to Canada. So one or the other. We're hopeful.
Well,
I don't want to go there.
yeah.
We don't want to go there, but I can tell you we've written 10 steps to the dumb down test. We could all take a dumb down test if you want to.
No, that's okay. That's okay. There are times I'm already feeling lost. I don't need to feel more so. Anyway.
Really?
Well, let's talk about, man, you have had one big life.
Yes, you have.
You
Yes,
genuinely have had a big life. What was it like doing, episode after episode and featurette after featurette for all those years, and what parts of Tennessee did you find you loved the absolute most when you did them?
Great question. But there's a place up near Allert, near Jamestown, Tennessee. I really like that country up there. And we first met a millstone sharpener up there named Mr. Cooper. And this is near Pall Mall, Tennessee, where Sergeant York was from.
Oh, okay.
So it's up near the Big South Fork.
Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. Now I know where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fascinating country and with a wild, great history. And I still have a great friend, Mary Robbins, up there. I want to say hi to her. But that's a beautiful place. Of course, the park and Cades Cove, and I ended up living for about 8 or 9 years. I built a cabin, and we lived in right there in Abrams Creek.
Did you
Happy
really?
Valley.
I was going to say Happy Valley, yeah.
Yeah.
That's over near Chilhowie Park.
Uh-huh.
You're only 7 miles downstream from Cades Cove on Abrams Creek to my house. But when my dog would take off and end up in the national park and then get arrested, I had to drive an hour and a half around to get him. I did that about 20 times, but there was warrants out for him everywhere.
I would have gotten a leash. I would have done something a little simpler than do that 20 times.
I started getting emails from people Buddy was hiking with, and eventually wrote a little story about how Buddy trained them for climb Mount Shasta, stuff like that. I don't know how they found out I was Buddy's daddy. It's kind of fun.
And that's what spawned the book, Buddy, the Dog of the Smoky Mountains. So
yeah, and that came the book first. I wrote that story because I had really nice emails from people in Oregon that had met Buddy, and he kept getting picked up, and people would see a dog and pick him up, take him home, and finally we put a collar on him that said Buddy knows his way home. And because I'd have to drive to Knoxville, and girl would get out of the car crying. She said, "We love Buddy. We want to keep him. We love Buddy." I'd say, "Buddy's my dog."
Yeah, prove it. I found him in the Smokies. Prove it.
That's right.
And
my own fault.
You mentioned briefly, back in the day when, basically when Tennessee was the West. And actually, you even came out with a book on that called Tennessee, when the West was Tennessee. And this is just a phenomenal book. It's got so many wonderful things of, different histories and
it's
different things that took place.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any idea took place in Tennessee and East Tennessee. Bill, why don't you give us a couple stories from this particular book that we love?
Two of my favorite all-time stories are in that book because they're such a sort of epic journeys. One was the first exploration in Tennessee by a lieutenant in the British Army before there was a Tennessee, Lieutenant Henry Timberlake, who came into Kingsport, came down the river, came up the Little T to the Indian country there, where Sequoia Birthplace Museum is,
Yeah.
And there was that's the Overhill country. There was 14 villages along from, today it's Fort Loudon Dam to the Chilhowie Mountains, and that's with the Overhill country. There's really, people think the Cherokee were, in North Carolina, but they certainly were, but they really controlled everything from Columbia, South Carolina to almost Nashville.
Wow.
And the explorer William Bartram came through here in 1776, and both of those journeys and memoirs are at least as exciting as the Undaunted Courage, really, the journey of to the west. Let's see, who was that? Undaunted Courage, Lewis and Clark expedition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's
Okay.
So that's two of the first and finest explorations into our region are in that book as a condensed version adaptation. And we tried for years and years to get Timberlake produced as a little film or a short feature or multiple. We just weren't able to get it together to do. But the Heartland series had there was so many interesting stories around here, and we all worked so hard, anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 people over the course of the run of the series. We had 2 producers and 2 writers who were the producer writers when we started, and we had some great ones. And they worked for us worked for the station like me for 2 or 3 or 4 years and moved on to bigger and better things.
Now, who
Doug
picked
Mills was always the cameraman.
If I can ask, who picked the locations that you went to? Did you research these, or did you just go, let's take a ride down the road here and see what we find?
You can't do that with a camera crew that are all being paid. You gotta take off.
I guess it takes a little more
A
planning.
little bit more planning than that. Yeah.
Well,
We wanted to do a story on the European wild boar when we first started. That's the big hogs that multiply in the park. Well, they're an exotic species. They're from a different world, and they got loose, and the park has tried to eradicate them. So we called the park the first year and talked to a guy named Kim Delosier, who was the wildlife coordinator, and became a great friend. We did 15 shows over the course of the run of the series, and Kim was wonderful. But he says, meet us at 9 o'clock at Morton's Overlook, about 4,000 feet, and we'll walk out the side of the trail there and take some pictures of some hogs. And we didn't know any better, so we met him there, and we didn't even bring a flashlight. And we hiked 4 miles down a ice water trail till 2 a.m. and it sounded like a Chinese, paper drive or something. He said, look, you guys, we're not going to see anything. Let me go ahead. When he took the flashlight. So he went on ahead, and we were wandering through the woods there in the dark, carrying camera gear and tennis shoes. We didn't know anything. And he got behind a big hemlock tree and went,
Oh no!
and everybody dropped all the gear and took off. It was terrible. So we got back home at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock and got up and went to work. And about 9 o'clock, he calls up and said, "You still looking for some wild boar pictures?" And we said, "Yeah, why?" We didn't want to do that again. He said, "Well, we'll come up to the park here. We got a big male boar in there with about 7 tusks on him. He's a huge animal. Come on up, take some pictures." And Doug and I were on our way up there to do that, and we kind of wondered that, that boar was in that pen yesterday, too. That's the way it started. That
yeah.
first year was like that.
And it went on from there.
Yes.
Well, and you pointed this out to us, and I got to read, before the show, Bill said, if you want to know what this book is about, when the West was Tennessee, he said, start here. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read this quote real quick.
Yeah.
And it's adapted from B.A. Botkin's A Treasury of Southern Folklore. And it says, quote, "And all the time, there he was playing his tricks, making a way out of no way, of hitting a straight lick with a crooked stick, winning the jackpot with no other stake but a laugh, fighting a mighty battle without outside showing force, and winning his war from within." What a great way to start a book. I mean, that's incredible.
Well, that's Crockett.
I like
too.
the title, Irrepressible Cussedness.
How could a penniless, poor little farmer from East Tennessee grow up to become king of the wild frontier?
How indeed.
Yeah, and really, I mean, isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Just unbelievable. Well,
I'll tell you what, Bill, we're going to take a quick break.
Yep.
And then we're going to, get a couple words
back?
from our sponsors, and then we're going to come right back, and then we're going to talk about telling it for the truth. So, and a few other stories of Bill Landry. So stay with us. Hello. You may recognize us from Mountain Fun Life TV show Story Time with Santa and Mrs. Claus. And here are the stories that bring the TV show to life. The Santa's Elf series of children's books features wonderful rhyme and beautiful corner-to-corner illustrations and include a special message from Santa at the end of each story. I wrote the books, and Mrs. Claus did the artistry. Available in hard and soft covers, these books are available wherever great children's books are sold, or online or at our website, thenorthpolepress.com. There are 7 already published and more on the way. So pick up one or more of these books and read them to your kids today.
Welcome back.
Boy, that was short. So much to cover, so many things to talk about.
I
But
know.
one of the things that we want to talk about is, like we said, Bill's got some great books. Why don't you tell him where we can find some of Bill's books around here in the Smokies?
Well, yeah. As Bill mentioned earlier, and this is one of the things we want to definitely tell everybody about Bill, is that his books are available We're going to talk about Telling It for the Truth, and then When the West Was Tennessee, which is the one I have here. But they're available at the Heritage Center in Townsend, which is close to us right now, and at the National Park. And then if you're in Knoxville, at the Union Avenue bookstore, and of course on Amazon, you can also get his books there as well. So
now, Hannah's got his one website up from Celtic Cat. That's one of his publishers. It talks about Bill and gives kind of a little history and biography, if you will, about what Bill's written about and how you can find his books as well.
Yeah.
So, and that is CelticCatPublishing.com/Bill-Landry. And Celtic Cat is CELTIC.
Yeah.
So
So that's got some information
yeah, and that's
on there
got
as
some
well.
information.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Bill is one of those people. If you look him, if you Google him, you'll find him. He's out there.
He's everywhere.
So, up, I see him.
TheBillLandry.com.
I'm sorry. Could you say that again, Bill?
I said the best place. Actually, Celtic Cat doesn't sell my books anymore,
Oh, I apologize.
and that's okay. TheBillLandry.com.
The Bill Landry. Okay.
The Bill Landry.
There was a lot of Bill Landrys. Just because
But
I've been hoodwinked and invaded web-wise, and it's hard to find who the real guy is.
So we now know it's the Bill Landry.
The Bill Landry.
.com.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what.
Very cool.
And until my son comes back and stays about 3 days to fix up my websites, that's the best I got right now.
Okay.
No,
All right.
that's good. That's good.
And then, as Mary said, he's also available at a lot of the stores up and down the Smoky Mountains around here. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, so let's talk a little bit about your other book, Telling It for the Truth. So what's that
The
about?
title, the best storyteller I ever heard was Ray Hicks. He lived in Boone, North Carolina, and he'd tell these amazing tales. He had the oldest, purest old accent in America. And I'd say, Ray, is that true? He said, well, no, but I told it for the truth. And you hear somebody said if they told it for the truth, something good is usually coming. And so, a good story will be told and told again. That's kind of how these are the first, bigger stories that were too big for my first book, and I'm glad I did them. But some of them are biographical, and some of them are adventures that really happened. A couple of the stories, like the Spartans of Ray County, are just wonderful, and like Charlie Garland's stove. The strongest guy who ever lived was a guy named Charlie Garland in Cates Cove.
In Cates Cove. I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
He
he
was
carried
only-
that
he was-
stove.
He was only like 6 feet and weighed about 190, but he could carry 5 bushels of corn 3 miles up a mountain. That's 72 pounds a bushel. So that's 350 pounds. Charlie Garland goes to Maryville to get a step stove. And the guy says, okay, Charlie, bring your wagon around back. And he said, I ain't got no wagon. He said, how are you going to get it back to the cove? And he said, I'm going to carry it. He said, you're not carrying this stove that weighs 217 pounds. He said, yeah, I can carry that. And the guy says, if you carry it all the way back to the cove 17 miles without putting it down, I'll just give it to you. Throw it in these pots and pans. So he did. He leaned against a tree twice, and the guy sent from Maryville, Caldwell hardware store, he sent a man on horseback to make sure he didn't cheat. And Charlie carried that stove from Maryville down Wilkerson Pike and through Piney Level and over Butterfly Gap and across Hess's Creek and never put that stove down about 1903. And we wanted to do that story. And when we first started, Mr. Abbott told us that story in 1984. And about 15 years later, we met a prop mistress at the Clarence Brown Theater who made us a balsam stove that somebody could carry. We didn't have anybody for 20 years that could carry that stove around all day.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that. That was just a fabulous story. And you know, I think that's one of the things that you do such a wonderful job in your book is you really set a stage for the history of Tennessee and how and colorful it was in some areas like that where you know he carried that stove, and then the historical side of it. But there's another very interesting story in here, and it concerns a duel between two very famous men, one certainly from Tennessee, Governor John Sevier, and then
well, let him tell.
Oh yes, you tell. Yeah, you go ahead and tell us the story.
Well, they hated each other.
And who was they?
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson, President Andrew Jackson.
Yeah. And as he got famous, he became more of a favorite of Middle Tennessee. And John Sevier was, of course, the Indian fighter, the first governor, and he was more a little earlier fighting times. They were just rambunctious people. And, they, of course, it was a marital spat. Sevier insulted Jackson on the street, and Jackson called Sevier a petty-flogging scoundrel, and they had, you know, terrible communications in letters about what scumbags each of them were. You know, and people today can recognize the anger. So they decided they're going to meet each other outside the laws of the state, which meant they couldn't duel in Tennessee at the time, but they could go to Fort Southwest Point because that was a fort that was built to protect the settlers that in a short 10 years became a fort to protect the Native Americans from the settlers right there at Kingston. So they were supposed to meet there for the duel outside the boundaries of the state. See? And they kind of each had a second and third, and they had a horse, and Babe Parker from Kingston told the story because he lived right next to it, to the fort there, that they just cussed each other, and Sevier didn't have his pistols, and he said, "You wouldn't shoot a naked man, would you?" And they neither one of them had their pistols. The horse did, and then the horse ran away with the pistol. And Babe Parker always said, if that horse, he was the hero of the day, because if either one of those great, you know, powerful, legendary founders of the state of Tennessee had died, it would have been a completely different historical turn on the history of our state.
Isn't that amazing? That is absolutely amazing.
In the United States, because he wasn't, at that time, Andrew Jackson wasn't president, was he?
No, he was a lawyer,
yeah,
a Knoxville lawyer, and a bad dude. I mean, he'd had 7 or 8 duels. He'd already killed one man in a duel. And
wow.
He also, it was Andrew Jackson that subdued Russell Bean, who was one of the baddest people in there. You know, he's the guy that would go on a long hunt, come back, and he found out he had, instead of having 3 children, he might have had 4 or 5 there. So he cut the ear off one of his kids so it wouldn't get mixed up with his own brood.
Oh my gosh! Oh, jeez,
Oh.
That's
nice
a true
guy.
story. And it took Andrew Jackson to subdue him. They had to get Andrew Jackson to go get him because they were going to drag him in, to the locks or the jailhouse, whatever they had back then.
People were cut from a different cloth back then, weren't they?
They were, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they settled land disputes by wrestling or something.
Yeah.
That's the way they settled White Creek in Roane County. Had a big argument. Nobody knew where the line was, from the big poplar tree to the left side of the ridge, That was what was in a deed. And so how are we going to settle this, Captain McKelvey? He said, let's wrestle for it. So that's what they did. That was a funny little scene we did one time.
Amazing. And of course, you've got an awful lot about Davy Crockett in your books as well, and talking about his life and all the things that he did. And, it's hard to imagine Davy Crockett as being both a frontiersman and a senator, but that was the kind of people that were in Tennessee at the time, was it not?
Well, yeah, they were the best we had. Send the best, the smartest leader, and to represent us.
Right.
Crockett served that purpose, and he wrote a lot of amazing things about it too. He had 3 girlfriends before he married Polly. And he said he'll go see him, and he said he couldn't talk because his heart would get to fluttering like a duck in a puddle. And you know what he's talking about. But, for y'all who have never been on a wolf hunt, I'll just tell you that when you get lost, the way home is just where you don't think it is.
We've talked about that a lot, that, you look at these forests and they're just endless, and it's like, once you're in them, you don't know which way you're going. And how these guys got around and did what they did, and especially, you said, basically, Tennessee was the back hills country of North Carolina, and it ran all the way from the Appalachians all the way to the Mississippi. And that was all wild country.
Yeah, yeah.
People forget that it was 13 colonies on the East Coast. And if you were Irish or Scots and didn't own land, the English would stick you between them and the Indians. So you
were the buffer.
Buffer. Great, that's it. So the mountains where the Indians were, and the Overhill were on the eastern side of the Appalachians. So from the top of Appalachian Mountain to the Mississippi River was the back country of North Carolina before 1796. 1796, we finally had enough people, about 70,000 or so, in that stretch of territory to become a state. And I guess we were just the back country of North Carolina, and of course there wasn't any taxation without representation. We couldn't get protection. There was no law. There was no some militia, and that's how Sevier earned his spurs, sort of.
So I guess
out here.
And you're right. I mean, so much, history, just right here in Tennessee, and Bill, you've done just a fabulous job to showcase that in your books, and in the Heartland series. I know a lot of that too was you focused on some places and people that played an integral part of the development of Tennessee. So just a wonderful thing.
Thank you. It was always a celebration of a people in their land. And Steve Dean was our executive producer. Linda Billman was a great writer. Went on to direct DVX Radio. And Sean Kirk, and Laura Armour, and just a wonderful group of people that we really worked well together. WBIR supported it.
Yeah.
It was a struggle, but we learned, and it happened in about that fast. You wake up one day and 30 years passed.
And isn't that amazing? I mean, you know, Mary and I are celebrating today because this is our 6th month.
Yes.
We've been doing this show now every week.
Yeah.
And then I look at you and go, he did 150 half-hour episodes. We got a long way just to catch up to that. And don't even get me started on the 1,900 or so, you know, featurettes that you did on BI. How did you keep up at that pace every week?
You did them one at a time.
Yeah. Well,
the world evolved around today, and what you came back with in the camera. And you know, people think, how do you do that? Well, people will tell you what to do. But we had so many people suggesting so many great ideas. You know, one more story quickly. Doug, we're shooting bears in Cage Cove around the loop one day. We had a little time. It was after lunch, and you know, we see a big old bear with mama cubs and stuff, and we'd stop and shoot it. So Doug's out there one day shooting. The guy comes up, and he's got a camera that says Heartland Series, WBIR TV. And the guy looks at him and says, "What you doing?" You know, well, what do you think he's doing? You know, he's got a camera, he's taking pictures. But Doug heard that 30 years worth. What you doing? And he never said anything smart, or he just would taking pictures. What they mean is, what are the pictures going to be used for? And the guy says, "Well, how'd you know the bears were going to be here?" And Doug just looked at his watch and said, "Well, it's 2:00, isn't it?" And the guy says, "Yeah." He said, "Well, the ranger said he's going to feed the bears at 2:00.
And I guarantee you they believed him. I guarantee it.
Yeah. They're from Ohio, generally.
Oh, is that when they feed them 2:00? Okay.
We always thought that everything north of here was Ohio. People are funny.
Well, and I'll tell you, I can only guess how many great stories you have when you were out there and different things. Did you ever get chased by anything, or did you ever, you know, get into some close calls?
Yeah, often.
Often?
No, we were Walnut Bottoms. We were going up behind Mount Sterling into 5 miles into the park, and the only way to get in there was on horseback, and we had a grip, David Gowie, with a sound box he carried around his neck, and we had to get horses, and the horses had to step over a big log that was about 4 feet high almost.
Wow.
And when we went over that log on horseback, that sound box swung up and hit Gowie right between the eyes and knocked him cold as a mackerel. And he fell off the horse, and we started kicking him, saying, "Get up, Gowie, get up." He was out cold. We thought we killed him. And other things. Get lost or climbing Mount LeConte in 24 degrees below zero, shooting up there in the winter.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
That's as cold as the North Pole.
Yeah.
Cold as, yeah. But,
yeah, at least that,
that's a story too.
Wow.
I can't let me think. There was something else I wanted to tell you, but it's gone. It'll come back.
Well, and unfortunately, we're running out of time. However, I want to say this. Right now, everything's in kind of a state of flux, but Bill does make it up into the area on occasion and does do speaking engagements and stuff up here. Do you not?
Yeah, when normally that's how the Talk is Cheap tour was developed.
That's right. We were talking about that earlier too. Funny story on that one. But
Yeah.
anyway, when he's coming up again, we will make sure to put it on Mountain Fun Life so that you can catch Bill
Yes.
wherever he's coming. Because
Yes.
if he gets into this area, you owe it to yourself to try and meet this man in person, get some of his books signed,
Yeah.
and it's something that you will cherish for the rest of your days if you get a chance to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
It's been a
mean, Bill,
pleasure talking to you,
I'm sorry?
Santa. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Oh,
Get to see you guys.
well,
We don't get to do shows anymore.
Well, next year.
You got to adapt.
next year.
Next year.
Next year.
We'll
Next
do
year
it
is going to
next
be.
year.
We're going to
Yeah.
make up for it in spades
Yeah.
next year. We're going to
Yeah.
go to everything that
Yeah.
we can go to. So, and we'll
Right.
come down. We'll come down your way too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Well-
get down there.
Come see it.
But
Thank you.
Like they say,
well,
back home, come see us and set a spell.
There you
yeah,
go.
and we would certainly love to do that.
There
so.
you go. And thank you, Bill, so much. It has
Thank
just
you.
been such a pleasure to have you, and it's been fun and entertaining, and you're just fabulous with all your
just-
expertise with everything. Just
Stories.
It's funny. It's funny. Yeah.
Love your story. I could listen to your stories all day. I'll tell you, it was great when we were able to get to it at a show because
Yes.
he would do, he would speak and
Yeah, do-
then
and do
then we'd get a
storytelling.
chance to talk to him and boy, he just come up with one tale after another and the whole weekend I just listened to Bill.
Yeah.
You and Sam Venable. I mean, you guys just went.
Talk about
it's like,
storytellers.
just
Yeah.
talk about storytelling. You go back
Yeah,
and forth forever.
Yep.
But anyway,
Yep, had a great
And
time.
then
Well-
whenever we'd be telling tales and the other one wasn't there, Sam and I and other storytellers learned to tell the other person's tales. We'll save ours for when we really got in a tight spot. Where you really had to perform. Nah, don't waste them on the. Today we'll tell Sam and Claiborne's tales, Elizabeth Rose's stories.
Yeah, and they probably all start running together after a while. You don't know who wrote what.
I know.
Didn't matter. You just know it's always stolen from somebody.
Well,
That's what
telling
Ray
it,
Hicks
for,
always.
telling it for the truth.
That's
what
right.
you were
Tell
doing.
the truth.
Well, Bill,
Everything
I was going to say,
everything I've talked about, as amazing as those stories are, they're all true.
I know.
you
That's
just
what's
have to
crazy.
cross your fingers as you tell them.
Sometimes,
Well,
sometimes
thank
it
you.
don't matter.
True enough. Well, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate you taking some time. And again, I hope you'll pick up Bill's books and
Yes.
get some of his story because I'll tell you, it'll leave you chuckling and in awe at some of the history
Yeah.
for this
Yeah,
area. It's just
absolutely.
really
Yeah,
amazing.
No,
So,
it is.
Thank you. Thank
Well-
you for,
Well-
for that, Santa.
Stay safe
Great to
down
see
in
you all.
Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
And our best to your lovely wife Sandy. And
Okay.
again, we'll catch up again. We won't make it so long next time.
No, if I don't see you before Christmas, we'll see you then.
Absolutely. I'll be there. Take care,
Yeah.
Bill.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. And folks, boy, I'll tell you, what an icon. And I mean, this was just the literal tip of the iceberg of what this man knows and can talk about. And
I
he's
know,
probably
I know.
forgotten
And-
more stories than what we'll
Well,
ever hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got Libby Gilly said a great show. So nice to see Bill Landry again. And it wasn't it? It just was wonderful. Jane Cowan is watching. So
Hey,
glad
Jane.
you could join us, Jane. And so we,
Wow.
gosh, had just a wonderful time. And of course, you want to continue with Mountain Fun Life. We have tomorrow is our entertainment
Yep.
with James Gilley and Jim Johnson.
Yeah.
And they always have a great, fun show. And then we have Chris and Savannah on
Thursday. And oh my
morning.
God, some of the stuff they're coming up with
Yeah,
from
right.
the different chambers and the different community leaders and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Wow, you want to know what's going on?
Definitely need to tune into that.
Absolutely.
And of course, Rich Haley on Friday with
And
sports.
which I have to add a little personal note here.
Yeah.
Congratulations to
Rich, yes,
Rich
yes.
and Mountain Fun Life. They
Yeah.
are going to be starting a whole new sports
They
channel
are. They are.
right here at Mountain
Yeah.
Fun Life. So
Yeah.
be watching for sports in the mountains with
Yes.
Rich Haley.
Yes.
So
So-
and again, Mountain Fun Life is growing, and we want you to stay with us so you can watch us grow.
Yeah.
So by all means, thank you for joining us.
thank you for joining
and
us.
on
We had a great-
half
a
of
great
Bill
time.
Landry and
Yeah.
and us, thank you. We appreciate you tuning in every week and following us. So
We do.
and we look
We
forward
do.
to your comments. So take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.